In Chicago, a new development has completely shifted the landscape of the final stretch of the 2026 season. The Chicago Cubs have received a major update regarding trade talks involving Los Angeles Angels left-hander Reid Detmers, and with the August 3rd trade deadline closing in fast, the clock is officially ticking for the North Side front office. This isn't just another rumor floating around social media or a random piece of speculation. This is a legitimate development backed by people around the league at a time when the Cubs can no longer afford to sit back and hope their internal options suddenly turn things around. The starting rotation has been bleeding since the middle of the season, and every day that passes without a solution pushes the front office toward moves that become more expensive and a whole lot riskier. The impact could be immediate. If this deal gets across the finish line, Chicago would land a controllable left-handed starter under team control through 2028, exactly when several members of the current rotation are expected to hit free agency or move on. That's not just plugging a hole for this season, that's securing a piece of the future. According to ESPN insider Jesse Rogers, writing on Monday, the Chicago Cubs are among the clubs actively monitoring Reid Detmers as a potential trade deadline addition. The 27-year-old southpaw remains under club control through the end of the 2028 season, making him far more valuable than a typical rental available at the deadline. Rogers pointed out that several Cubs starters are approaching the end of their current contracts, making a move for a pitcher with multiple years of control a true two-for-one solution. It strengthens the club's chances of reaching the postseason this year, while also giving the organization much-needed stability beyond this season. His report also noted that, according to league sources, the asking price for controllable starting pitching has skyrocketed as the deadline approaches. Fortunately for Chicago, the organization has one clear advantage. The Cubs possess an impressive surplus of infield talent, not only on the major league roster but throughout the farm system as well. That organizational depth could become valuable trade currency, allowing Jed Hoyer's front office to improve the rotation without weakening the current big league club. On the other side of the negotiating table, people close to Reid Detmers reportedly view this moment as an opportunity to increase his value rather than simply change uniforms. Teams searching for starting pitching quickly discover that representatives understand exactly how valuable 2.5 years of club control becomes in a market where pitchers with that profile are extremely difficult to find. For a starter like Detmers, the conversation goes beyond salary, which remains governed by the arbitration system. His camp is expected to seek assurances about his role within a new rotation. A pitcher with his background as an established starter isn't looking to become a bullpen arm or emergency depth option. Instead, his representatives will likely want clarity regarding workload management, his permanent spot in the rotation, and his long-term role on a team built to compete. Those factors can carry just as much weight as the trade itself. The Cubs front office is dealing with an equation that goes far beyond simply filling an empty spot in the rotation. The organization has to balance three major priorities all at once: stay in the fight for the National League Central title, protect the core of one of baseball's strongest farm systems, and avoid mortgaging the future for a quick fix. Rental arms like Freddie Peralta, Tarik Skubal, Kevin Gausman, or Robbie Ray might solve today's problem, but they'd leave the Cubs facing the exact same question heading into the 2027 season. Everything coming out of the front office suggests a different strategy. Chicago appears committed to targeting pitchers with multiple years of team control, even if that means paying a steeper price in prospects. It's a long-term approach. Spend more now so you don't have to repeat this same desperate search next summer. That kind of discipline has become a defining characteristic of how this front office has operated over the last several trade deadlines. Now pay close attention to this number, because it explains exactly why the Cubs are so interested in Reid Detmers. His ERA sits at 4.05 this season. On the surface, that looks average at best, but then you look at his FAP 3.28. For anyone who follows advanced metrics, that's a huge difference. FIP strips away the impact of a team's defense and focuses only on what the pitcher actually controls: strikeouts, walks, hit batters, and home runs. The gap of nearly 0.8 of a run between Detmers' ERA and FIP isn't random. It's a strong indication that the defense behind him in Los Angeles has inflated his traditional numbers. Now imagine dropping that same pitcher behind one of the best defensive teams in all of Major League Baseball. That's exactly what the Cubs can offer. Add in 136 strikeouts over 120 innings pitched, a 1.7 WAR, and an ERA plus of 102, slightly above league average, and you're no longer looking at the profile of a back-end starter. You're looking at a pitcher who could take a significant step forward the moment his environment changes. From a tactical standpoint, Detmers would fit into Chicago's rotation almost seamlessly. This isn't simply about replacing an injured arm, it's about maximizing what he already does well. The Cubs' defense is widely regarded as one of the strongest in baseball, consistently converting balls in play into outs across nearly every position on the diamond. For a pitcher like Detmers, who thrives on weak contact and routinely gets hitters to put the ball in play, that level of defensive support could naturally pull his ERA much closer to what his underlying metrics have suggested all season long. As for the rotation itself, Detmers would likely slot in immediately behind Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd, giving Chicago a trio of left-handed starters capable of disrupting opposing lineups that are typically built to face right-handed pitching. That variation in arm angles and matchup profiles isn't just a minor detail. It's something opposing scouts, hitting coaches, and advanced scouting departments spend countless hours preparing for, and it could become a real advantage during critical September series and potentially the postseason. Now here's what I've been able to learn from people close to the clubhouse at Wrigley Field. The mood inside the clubhouse isn't one of panic, it's one of measured anticipation. I spoke with people connected to the pitching staff, and the message was crystal clear. Nobody likes seeing teammates go down with injuries, but nobody inside that room is surprised by the front office's activity ahead of the trade deadline either. There's a growing belief throughout the clubhouse that Cubs management will make a calculated move, not a desperate one, and that confidence has noticeably changed the tone of internal conversations over the past few weeks. One detail really stood out to me. Several veterans on this roster have lived through previous trade deadlines where the organization paid a premium for short-term fixes, only to regret those moves the following season. That's exactly why a pitcher like Reid Detmers is viewed so positively inside the clubhouse. He represents long-term stability instead of another temporary patch. From everything I've heard, once this trade becomes official, it would be welcomed by the players as a move designed to strengthen the franchise, not just survive the next couple of months. That's the read I'm getting from people closest to the team. The ripple effect of acquiring Reid Detmers would also be significant throughout the Cubs farm system. Over the past several draft classes and player development cycles, Chicago has quietly built one of the deepest collections of infield talent in baseball. That surplus, especially throughout AAA and the upper levels of the minor leagues, is exactly what gives the front office flexibility at this deadline. It allows Jed Hoyer and his staff to put together an attractive trade package without touching the current major league roster or sacrificing the organization's untouchable blue-chip prospects. Development analysts around baseball expect any proposal sent to the Los Angeles Angels to center around that surplus of infield prospects while protecting the Cubs' young pitching depth and highly regarded outfield talent players the organization views as cornerstones of its next championship window. Historically, turning organizational depth into controllable major league talent is one of the smartest moves a contender can make when its competitive window is wide open. And right now, that's exactly where the Cubs find themselves. Chicago isn't the only contender searching for controllable starting pitching before the August 3rd trade deadline. The Milwaukee Brewers, Philadelphia Phillies, and Atlanta Braves are all monitoring pitchers with multiple years of club control rather than settling for short-term rentals. That growing competition continues to drive up the market value of arms like Reid Detmers. Meanwhile, organizations such as the Detroit Tigers are still weighing whether they'll make Tarik Skubal available, fully aware of the competitive and public relations risks involved in trading away their ace while fighting for a playoff spot. The result is a domino effect across the market. The longer teams hesitate to move rental starters, the greater the demand becomes for pitchers with years of control remaining. And that also increases the likelihood that teams like the Cubs will be willing to pay a premium before another contender jumps into the bidding for the same target. Now it's up to all of us to keep a close eye on the next few days, because this situation is going to unfold quickly. There are 3 key signs every Cubs fan should be watching. First, pay attention to any sudden movement involving the Cubs minor league infielders, especially if players begin arriving near the club's training facilities. Around baseball, that's often one of the clearest indicators that a trade package is being finalized behind the scenes. Second, listen carefully to what the Angels front office says publicly. If Los Angeles starts speaking more openly about rebuilding or selling controllable talent, that's usually a strong sign that major trade announcements aren't far behind. And third, keep an eye on Reid Detmers himself during his next few starts. Pitchers who become the center of serious trade discussions are often handled differently by their current clubs. They may see shorter outings, adjusted workloads, or even extra caution designed to protect their value before a deal becomes official. If all 3 of those signals begin lining up at the same time, there's a very good chance this trade is entering its final stages. Now here's my take, and I'm not going to sit on the fence. I truly believe this is exactly the kind of move that separates organizations that simply participate in the trade market from organizations that build a lasting competitive advantage. Reid Detmers isn't the flashy headline-grabbing superstar that's going to dominate every national sports show. And honestly, that's precisely why I like this move so much. For weeks now, I've been saying on this channel that the smartest trades aren't always the loudest ones. Give me a 27-year-old starting pitcher with 2.5 years of club control and advanced metrics that suggest he's pitching much better than his traditional numbers over a big-name rental who helps you in August and disappears once October arrives. Every single time. If the Cubs can pull this off by using their surplus of infield prospects without sacrificing the core of their future, I honestly believe it could go down as one of the smartest moves of the current front office era. That's disciplined roster building. That's understanding the market. And that's how organizations create sustainable contenders instead of chasing one magical summer. Now I want to throw the question over to you, Cubs fans. If the front office has to choose between trading part of its surplus of minor league infield talent right now in exchange for 2.5 years of Reid Detmers, or waiting a few more days hoping to land a bigger name rental with absolutely no guarantee beyond the 2026 season, which direction would you take? Would you invest in long-term stability? Or would you roll the dice on the biggest name available before the deadline? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to hear where Cubs Nation stands on this one. And as always, go Cubs,